Alright, this is going to be the first video of the mortgage-free simple cabin build series. You're going to get to see me build this 20 by 32 cabin that my girlfriend and I are going to be living in. This is my third cabin build. Will be my fourth if you include the tiny house that my girlfriend and I are living in while we're building this. But this is pretty well researched, you know, trying to keep price down as much as possible, keep it as simple as possible. Because of the price of lumber now, you know, it's just outrageous. So, but I built a log cabin in remote Alaska, north of Fairbanks, and then I moved home, built a log cabin in remote northeast Minnesota by the Boundary Waters, and that's where a lot of my videos, you know, you see me there. And then now we're building this one here. So, and this one's pretty close to my log cabin. So, going forward, for those of you new, you're going to see, you know, we'll be having our life here with our homestead. You know, gardens, some animals and stuff like that. And then of course I'll be at the log cabin a lot during the winter. So anyways, I'm going to try to go into as much detail as possible on how we build this. Not saying this is how to build a cabin. This is how I'm going to do it. I'm not a master carpenter by any means. I'm not even a carpenter. But like I said, I've built a few now. So and this method here is, like I said, pretty well researched on keeping the cost down, because I think we all like that. So stay tuned if you want to follow along, watch this build. I'll do it in a series, that way it's easy to follow, kind of step by step. And for those of you that are going to be building a cabin in the future, or just like watching, I mean, feel free to use any of this information if you want to. But of course, you know, once we get this thing built, future videos are going to be me and my girlfriend living here. And you know, just kind of real reality, no drama, you know, there's enough of that. Won't be using Cierra as clickbait to get you to click on my videos here. So just kind of real reality, you know, like I said, just no drama added, and just kind of how it is. So if you guys want to follow along, you're going to get to see the you know, the cabin build, of course, like I said, and kind of get to watch us create our dream from scratch here on raw land. So stay tuned if that interests you, and I appreciate you watching. Well, Cierra and I got our foundation pad, so we're at the point where we're hauling material over to the build site. We have 15 of these concrete pads. They're about 80 pounds a piece. And I know in my previous video I mentioned I was going to do sonotubes. We decided to go with this method instead. I think it's going to be a lot better for our application here. And it's a proven method that works well in our area. So that's what we're going with. But like I said, there's 15 of these. And I'll get into how this foundation is going to be built pretty soon here. All right, Cierra and I got our 4 corners marked out. You can see we got a stake in all 4 corners, some lines going here. We're right on and square, so I can start laying out our pads. And these pads are going to hold up the 3 beams. So we'll have one on this outside wall, one down the middle, and one on this outside wall. And there's going to be a pad every 8 feet supporting this beam, or each of these beams. And they're going to be 3 wide, 2x8s. So they'll be spliced together. Each seam will be resting on cinder blocks, which will be on these pads. So that is how the beams are going to be laid out. And then we'll build our floor on top of that. So I got some of this all-purpose gravel at Home Depot. And we have some class 5 on the property already. And so we're going to have a good solid 4 to 5 inch thick base of class 5 packed really well. And then this on top of that, about 4 or 5 inches of this as well. And then our pads will sit on top of that. All right, we got these green X's indicate where each of these pads are going to be going. So right now we're just going to move some material, get a pad next to each X, and a couple bags of that good gravel, and that way everything's prepped and ready, and we can just start flying. All right, so you can see here we're starting to dig these in. It's probably really hard to tell, but we have pretty hard clay where we're at, but we've dug down a little bit, and right here we have about 4 or 5 inches of class 5, and then this will go on top of that class 5, and the pad will sit on top of that, so it'll be a good base. And your base work is really important. You know, I worked with asphalt all last summer, and if your base isn't right, I mean, your product's gonna fail, you know. If you have a soft base, that's when tar cracks, you know, same as concrete. So your base work is really important to get it perfectly level and packed really well. Well, it's getting dark pretty fast here, so I think Cierra and I are going to call it for the day, but this is just for demonstration purposes, so you can see these pads will be sitting on that gravel. We still have another bag to add on this one, but we have the gravel base all done on this side, the class 5 base, that we still got to add this other gravel and all that. And then we started getting some of these dug in here, but we ended up running to Home Depot tonight, earlier in the night, to get 15 more of these bags of all-purpose gravel. So tomorrow we should be able to get these all in, I would think, if everything goes smooth. I don't know if you guys can see this tree here. This is the only one that is in our way right now, and it's not going to be in our way for a while. We'll be able to get all the pads in and everything, because this one down the middle here goes next to it. So we'll be able to get this all done and get our beams built and everything and get them on our pads. And then at that point, we'll be able to transplant this one here. I really want to save that one because that's one of the bigger ones we have to transplant. And it looks like it's going to be a really nice tree, so I do not want to waste that one. All right, well, we're starting day 2 here. We only worked on this for probably a couple hours yesterday because we were hauling materials all day, but I started on the middle beam here, getting these pads situated. This side over here is done. It's got class 5 and all those. I still got to add the bags of gravel here though, but I think I got 8 more to dig out like this, and then I'll add class 5, and then we'll add this all-purpose gravel and start leveling these out with each other. Cierra just had to run into town because last night, we keep our food out here because it's a little cooler, of course. So we could hear something underneath the cabin on wheels here all night. I would bang on the walls and scare it away, and it would come right back about 5 minutes later. And I don't know, it's probably a skunk or a fox or something. But I kept looking out the windows and stuff, with my flashlight, trying to figure out what it was, but never saw it. And then I wasn't going to go outside because, if you open the door just a crack, Skeeter's a wizard at getting outside. So, and if it was a skunk, like I said, I don't want him getting sprayed. So anyways, I thought it was pretty funny, but we got robbed. It stole our buns for our brats, and I think Cierra had some cantaloupe and a couple other things, but yeah, those are all gone. I've walked around, tried to find them, and can't find them. So whatever it was took them, but I guess that's living in the woods. The animals steal your stuff, not people. But anyways, I thought that was kind of funny. So pad 1's level, and now we just gotta level them all with each other. So I'm gonna start in one corner here. I'm gonna level off all these so they're all the same height and all level. And then I'll work my way shooting up the sides here. And there's gonna be a lot of adjusting and triple measuring, so it's a tedious game, but I don't know. Once this part's done, it gets a lot more fun. But this part's, like I said, by far the most important. So here's how I'm getting these pads leveled here. I got an 8-foot board. It's exactly 8 feet, and it's a really, really straight board. So it makes a good straight edge, and I get the pad level here. Now we can come up a little bit on that one end, just a hair. And it's, like I said, it's just a tedious thing. It's pretty good this way. And then now I know these are level to each other. I gotta drop this one here down just a little bit because this has to be exact. And if you're off just a little bit, even like, millimeters from here to there, but then you keep doing it this way, then you're gonna be way off by the time you get to the last pad. So you gotta make sure all these are 100% level before you go on. And like I said, it's not the funnest thing in the world, but it's important. And as you can see, I got a lot of them to do. So if I can get this accomplished today, I would consider that a pretty good win. But I'd say these first two here probably took me 30 minutes, honestly. But I'm kind of starting to get a system down now, so it should go faster. So you can see those two bags give me a pretty thick base here. And I just kind of get it roughly level with the level here. Just kind of using it as an edge, you know. So you can see I just use this 8-foot board here, cut it exactly 8 feet to make sure I'm in the center of each pad, and I just eyeball it. It doesn't need to be 100% exact, but it's got to be pretty darn close, because I'll have cinder blocks on top of these now. And when I build these beams, they're going to be 2x8 spliced together, and each one of my seams, I want them to land on one of these pads, so that way that splice is landing on a pad. All right, guys, there's the completed cabin footprint right there. All these pads are level and square to each other. Some of them might be just a little bit turned, you know, here and there, but we'll adjust those when we put the beams on. But center to center, they're all perfect. So this part went well. It's my least favorite part, and we can get on to some more fun stuff now. I want to point out this because I almost made a big mistake here. Well, not a big mistake. I would have realized it later on, and then it just would have been a lot harder to correct. When I, measured, the way I laid this out was 20 foot from the center of this pad to the center of that pad. And the reason that wouldn't really work very well is because, my beam's 3 boards wide. So I would have had about this much of my beam sticking out past my rim joist, and there wouldn't have been very much, my floor joist wouldn't be resting on very much of the beam. So I had to account for the width of the beam, and move these in a little bit. So now my beams lay right on the middle of these pads, and then the rim joist will come up flush to the outside edge of that, my beam. So otherwise the rim joist would have been sitting like in on the beam, like center on the beam, and then I would have had this much of my beam sticking out, which would have looked dumb and wouldn't have been as good. So okay, so I have this set up here for demonstration purposes. This is day 3. We've started hauling these blocks. I can only haul 30 at a time in my little Ford Escape, but we need 60, so I got to run back and get one more load here. But I wanted to set this up just to show you what it'll look like. So we have these blocks that'll be sitting on all of our pads, and the advantage of doing it this way, rather than having a continuous poured piece of cement for a footing, is if we ever have to make adjustments, this makes it really easy. If we have to jack up the cabin and adjust something, it's going to be a piece of cake because it's all individual pieces rather than having to wrestle, a big, heavy, continuous piece of concrete. So I think this is the route to go. And then, like I said, there'll be green treated lumber on top of this in between our beams and the concrete, because you don't want your beams sitting on concrete because of moisture issues. So this is what they'll look like when they're done. And I have to add that I would not recommend this type of pad foundation for a real large building. This is a smaller building. It's just a few hundred square feet, so it'll work just fine for that. But if you start getting into larger buildings, then I would probably go a different route than this. And it's supposed to rain like an inch later on today. I probably got about 4 or 5 hours before that starts. And I think it's going to rain the next couple days, so I probably won't do the beams, but I'll probably start those Saturday, I'm thinking. And those won't take too long. That should be a day to get those kind of in place and just kind of triple checking everything. And then we can start getting the material and get our floor built. So next video after this one will be those beams and maybe starting on the rim joist and floor joist and all that. So I've started laying these blocks on top of the pads like so, and as you can see, we're perfectly level. So this part of the process is turning out good so far. But this gives you an idea of how my beams will be sitting on here, the full length, of course. But yeah, so far so good. Well, it started raining pretty good, so me and Skeeter had to come take shelter in the shed. But you guys pretty much get the gist of it, how those pads work and all that. So like I said, there'll be a piece of green treated wood on top of those, and then the beams. And I should have that video for you guys next week. So things have finally started. But thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next week on the next video.